really glad to see everybody here. I think it's an awesome turnout, and no question why. We have Clif here, who's done many lectures and always done a super job, and one of the favorites, really. And I'm going to turn it over now to Clif. And Clif, whenever you want to start, we got the screen recording, this is recording, and we're good to go.
Okay, let me just start out by mentioning this guy gets overlooked. He works tirelessly for this club. There's no big salary, no company car, lots of tail. Okay, so tonight the lecture, my goal in the lecture is to have everyone get more out of the work they put into chess. Okay, because we're all, usually anyway, we're trying to get better, trying to take steps to make our games, we want to excel in improving as chess players, not just, maintain the same thing, generally. So, the first step in this regard would be to decide what type of chess player are you. I mean, there's some chess players, they want to be a world champion, and there's some chess players that, I just want to get to 1800, or, if I could only be an expert, that would be good. And I would say the quickest ways to improve for the big block of players in the middle, those players that would like to be anywhere from successful club players to elite club players. And when I say an elite club player, that covers everything up to FM. If you don't have an IM title or better, this would apply to you. Okay? And in terms of openings, when you're going to start the game, I would say, if you've been here on any Wednesday night, most of the games have one side virtually winning or having a huge advantage. They may give it back. That happens all the time. But it's enough that if they showed the right tactical awareness, right endgame skills, they would win the game. So, and starting from a win is always very nice, or starting from a big advantage. Okay, so, and that's kind of, for me anyway, it's the easiest thing to tweak, to improve the way we approach the opening. And so, in a short period of time tonight, I want to kind of open your mind to what I hope will be an optimal way for you to go forward in studying the opening part of the game. Okay, so, now, the opening choices, we want to look at first, the most important thing about your opening choices isn't what most people look at, what's the Stockfish evaluation. I'm point 2 here. Okay, that's, I'm point 4, I can't play this line. I'm negative point 4, sorry. I can't play this one, this is terrible. Okay, when actually the evaluation is, I put it at 4th. I think I can, likely defend that position. So I call this practicality. So the number one thing would be, what does anybody would guess the most, in my mind, the most important thing about your opening preparation?
Ease of play.
Okay, that's close. Ken?
Are you comfortable?
I mean, kind of the same thing, but yeah, I mean, those are really important, but there's one that people tend to overlook.
Surprise development.
Okay.
Flexibility.
Okay, everything everyone said is kind of spot on, but to me, the essence, and it's frequently misunderstood, is, do you get that position? So, I'll give you an example. The Sicilian, there are literally, there's the dragon and the last pelican and the accelerated dragon and the Najdorf and the Taimanov and the Khan. I can probably spend a lot more time. O'Kelly, Dr. Marchand was a big proponent of that. There's a lot of Sicilians, okay? The thing is, how often are you going to get your position? Now, if you spend all that time, like the Najdorf, MVL plays it, all the best players, Fischer played it, Kasparov, Magnus played some, Najdorf even. All these players at the top level play these openings. They're iron, they're Teflon, they can't be destroyed, okay? But what happens is when it goes to the club player, there's a different phenomenon that occurs. And how often do you think you're going to get that bishop g5, Najdorf? Here, let me show you what I'm, instead of just talking. Okay, so in the Najdorf, well, wait, I can even, now at the master level it's a little different. Let's look at regular people, okay? So this is from the lead chess database. Regular people playing c5, okay? And if we watch the drop-off, okay, in the number of games, so white could have played knight c3, f4, d4, the Smith-Morra, you know, online, this is, everyone loves this at short time controls for white, okay? In fact, a lot of times black players don't even try to take advantage of it. They say we're just going to bail out into a transposition to the Sveshnikov or c3 Sicilian. Okay, so, but there's so many choices. It turns out that if you look at how often you're going to, now here, there's the new line, bishop c4 is very popular now. There's c3. There's the closed lines where you're going to transpose to closed Sicilian. Okay, so sometimes white tries to play this move in order to trick black in some way. Bishop b5, Moscow variation. Okay, all these choices, you're not getting a real Najdorf. Okay, this is the open Sicilian, the Najdorf, but the number of games starts dropping. You know, it's almost, you know, it's falling away to going to be nothing, where you get to the main line. I mean, we went from, you know, just hundreds and hundreds of millions of games, and now all of a sudden after this we're down to 2 million. So you can see the percentage is nothing. You know, what are we talking about, 4 or 5%? You just spent your lifetime preparing this. And now if you're playing all players over 2,700, they're not playing all the dodges. They're going to go for this main line. You're going to get this position more likely. But if you're a club player, you're going to get everything else. 95% of the time, you're not getting that position that you spent hours and hours of your life devoting Stockfish and grinding and playing on all the sites to try what are people going to do with your opening. And you know that inside and out, and once again, they just avoided it. They avoided it this way, this way. Now there's another way. It's just too frustrating. It'll make you crazy. Now, that's not to say this isn't a great position for black. And if you want to be a world champion, I recommend you spend a lot of time studying a position like this, because it's one of the most resilient ways for black to fight. You know, the position is imbalanced, right? You have black with more center pawns, slower development, but white has more space. There's really, there's going to be a fight and a battle, and whoever understands it more is going to be more likely to be the winner. But that being said, okay, if it's only 4 or 5% of the time you get this, isn't that kind of a wasted mission? That just seems like a bad use of your time if you're a club player. You have school, you have a job, you have other things in your life, and you know, spending 500 hours to learn the poison pawn, which is one variation of this, okay, that you may never see, okay? So, what I'm suggesting is you want to try to get things that have a likely occurrence. And the more you can force these things, okay, the more likely you're going to get the positions you're looking for. Now, for instance, in a defense, okay, there was a player in Rochester, his name was Laszlo Tapasto, okay, and he was actually the king of forcing chess. Now, without, I think it's quite closely correlated that he was a strong player, but he was especially strong because he got his positions, and positions that were tailor-made for him. He liked maneuvering people in long, complicated, imbalanced endgames. You know, knights versus bishops. You know, he was very happy to have damaged pawn structure, okay, and take 2 knights against 2 bishops. And it's funny, because he would often fight with a guy named Igor Nikolaev, who's one of the best players to ever played in this city. Okay, he drew Hikaru Nakamura in a classical chess game in the state championship. So, I mean, we're talking, quite a level. And these guys would have battles, and they had a game, I remember, it started like this, where Laszlo had played this way. Played this. Okay, it's called the Veresev opening, and it's kind of a tricky opening. It looks a little bit like somebody mouse slipped. They were trying for the Jobava London, which is bishop f4, and it went to g5. Okay, and now with computers, this is hard to ever play because black has excellent play if he understands his resources. But for many years before computers kind of worked some of these things out, Nakamura played this actually with a lot of success, this Veresev. And it was one of those days where Laszlo and Igor had been playing, and they called me over. Okay, I'm honored. These guys, both over 2,400, and they are arguing about this position. But it was a little farther on. But it was just a tabia from this opening. Okay, and Igor's, I have two bishops, and this can't be. And Laszlo, look at the center. I have to. And they were going back and forth. And they asked me, and you couldn't have paid me. No, you could have put me at gunpoint. I wasn't going to say anything. These people are passionate about their chess. I'm not offending either one. I like both of them, okay? So, the funny part was, I came back, I took 10 years off from chess. Laszlo wasn't even in the city at this time. He was, I think, in Venezuela. And it's a Saturday tournament. First round, I see Igor Nikolaev. Who's got the white pieces? This position, Igor Nikolaev. Okay? And I looked at him and I saw him smile. He got up and we walked out. He's playing a guy's 2,100 or so. And I said, that position looks familiar. He goes, Laszlo taught me a lot about this position. So the point is, it's a practical choice and you're getting your game. See, another position that Laszlo loved, because you would get your game rather than the preparation of the Grunfeld out to move 30 or the Slav or semi-Slav, is he would play against knight f6, he would play bishop to g5. Okay. Now, everyone knows this is the Trumpowski, and it's kind of frowned on now. Okay, and that's largely because of the fact modern players don't like giving up the bishop for the knight. And if you put the bishop on g5, what's the point? I mean, if you're not ready to give it up for that knight, it probably shouldn't be there. Okay? So, the thing is with this, though, it sets up a whole set of different structural themes and patterns that Laszlo was very familiar with, and there's a lot of tricks. Now, there's a player that used this to especially good effect, even at the, almost the highest level. He won the British Championship. His name was Julian Hodgson. Okay, and the positions. Okay, so I actually played this against Joel Benju. That it's kind of funny because I reached a position into the ending where he said, I could have been drawing. So the opening, the middle game went very well for me. I'm playing a guy who's multiple-time U.S. champion, and I'm not crushed. So that's pretty awesome for me. And he was a very nice guy too. He looked over the game with me, very encouraging. So we played the game that looked like this. Okay, and in this position, and I showed this to many of my students over the year. Because white has a very clear-cut plan, it makes it kind of easy to play white. Now, does anybody see white's plan here? What's white's goal in this position? Because it's a positional goal, and it gives, in a lot of ways, a position that's very hard to handle for black if white has the right, concept here. Okay, you're going to attack the middle with what?
C-pawn?
Okay, so are you going to play immediately, or are you going to prepare?
I'm gonna prepare.
Okay, that's the main idea. See, when black has only one pawn on d5 and only one pawn can support that, just playing a move like e3 really sets it up for c4. And when we play c4, if he doesn't play c6, which is going to be just passively kind of responding to us, we're going to be able to trade our c pawn for his d pawn. If we get to do that, he takes back with a piece. We're going to have two pawns in the center against none. That's extremely tough to deal with. In fact, I'll just kind of take a little side note, because I'm the biggest ADHD person in the world. I can't help myself. Okay, I'm going to go off on this tangent. And there's a English junior coach. He's the coach of the English national youth team or whatever. And he has something called the pawn model. Okay, and his pawn model values each pawn differently. The A and H pawn are only worth a quarter. Okay, the B and G are worth 50 cents. The C and F are worth $1, and the two central pawns are worth $1.50. Okay, and that's much more accurate than the common, oh, a pawn is a pawn. that really doesn't, match the flavor of their effect on the game. So if you're going to have 2 versus 0, that's a big advantage in terms of controlling squares. So now there's also a lot of practicality in these things. So there's underlying positional themes involved here. This is very forcing. Okay, so if we had allowed, for instance, white to, let's say white played this, and now black's playing their Grunfeld opening, or King's Indian, or Benoni, or Banco. Okay, the different choices black has is so immense, and you're playing his theory, his book, but so Lasso avoided all that. I mean, it's not an accident the guy sat at almost 2,500 for, years and years. Okay, and there was a reason. It's because he got his positions. So I was going to show there's actually some neat tricks that Julian Hodgson used in many of his games, where these are all, and this is the position I reached with Joe Benjamin too. And this has been played many times. Okay. Now, you'll see, if we look, for instance, I was talking earlier, I don't know if everyone was here then, but Lichess database is a nice feature because you can actually control the level of the people that you take into your search. Okay, so that you can look at what 1,600 players, 1,800, 2,000, the whole, list of them, or you can choose specific areas. So if you're mostly playing in this particular region, oh, will they fall for this trick? Yeah. You can see that, it is going to be very likely. For instance, here, it's white's move. No, it's black's move. Plays here. White plays knight to c3. And now, what's the third most popular move here?
Black?
Yeah.
Bring the knight out and then.
Okay, the first is c6, which, I mean, it's a little passive, but it's solid, right? This is, the benefit of c6 is you're dominating the knight, taking squares away from the bishop. It's positionally well-founded, but, you're not lighting the world on fire by playing c6 either. The more natural move, which many strong players have played in blitz games against me, okay, is the third most popular move. And I have it set for, I think, 16 or 1,800 and up over 2,500. So this incorporates a wide range of, and you still see well over 2,000. And it's a losing move. So I haven't done anything unsound, but I'm giving them the chance to be lost right now. Now, does everyone see why c5 is actually a losing move? It's a cute tactic.
Pawn takes, bishop takes that pawn in front of the rook. I think, and if the rook takes, you take the queen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a nice shot. If the king takes, we've got queen check picks up the beat.
Yeah.
If the rook takes, queen hangs. So, and yeah, this is something that's happened, like 500 times or more here. So, it's an easy trap for players who are actually very strong. In fact, this maniac here is 1590. He still won after this. So he's scary. I'm not playing him. All right. So, okay, let's go on. So, these type of positions. Wow, is it almost 6 already? Okay, this is going way slower than I wanted. Sorry. Okay, I'm gonna have to pick up the pace a little bit. I enjoy myself too much when I get talking. All right. So, the opening choices. The first and most important thing is how likely are you actually going to get that position? So doing things like playing a very forcing opening like Topowski, the center counter Scandinavian, that was a favorite of Laszlo's as well. When I said he was the king of forcing, he really was. He chose all his openings to take it into his, little, swamp where he was going to pull you in and then trick you. Okay, so the second is the thing I think quite a few people talked about, is putting pressure on your opponent. Now, each opponent, that's going to be a different trick. Because, for instance, let's say your opponent is very tactical, but his endgames are not the greatest. This might be an incredible choice here. Because almost, even if you look at higher levels, okay, it's quite frequent. There's almost 500 games with DE. And this DE doesn't give white objectively anything. And black gets a very comfortable ending if he understands how he's playing this. Now, players that play this at club level have it, incredible. Well, even you can see this is the Masters database. In this position, black has a win rate of 50%, draw 42, and minuscule loss percentage. So even at the highest level, this is just an awesome position for black. So, but playing something like that against somebody who's very tactically oriented would, obviously suit you. So, that's the third thing, suitability to our strengths. We don't want to play openings that allow a lot of simplifications if we're like the worst endgame players. And we don't want to allow all those simplifications, if we're incredible tacticians, okay? If we're terrible defenders, we want to maybe play gambits where we are the ones playing with the activity all the time. Now, that's the difference. If we're, let's say, somebody who wants to be a world champion, you actually want to embrace that. Oh, my defense isn't good? Let me get attacked, okay? I remember years back, one of my, it was the bane of my existence was the Alcon defense. I just hated it. I hated it so much I just started playing it. And I had one of my best games against the guy I spoke about earlier, Igor Nikolaev. I had him beat by move 25. He still drew the game. Very frustrating. Okay, but so that's the way somebody who wants to try to improve at all costs and go to the highest level. You embrace your weaknesses and attack them by challenging yourself. But for all the people FM and below who want to be just the best local player, elite player they could be, you're going to get more mileage out of recognizing your strengths and weaknesses and trying to choose openings that are suitable. Like I know players, for instance, I'm not going to name any names. I feel bad about that. But let's say somebody is over 2100 strength, and it's for a very good reason. They calculate like a maniac, they attack, they know their openings, and they get in the end game, and they can't spell end game. Okay, so I want to go at their end game all the time. Like, oh, queen's off? Done. In fact, there was a player in Rochester, you could offer him a queen trade. You knew the queen was going to move someplace. He was allowing the trade, no matter what. It was like a cheat code. You could force his queen, into oblivion because he would never allow the trade because he didn't ever want to see it. In any case. Okay, so the last part of our opening choices would be objective strength. That's the evaluation. Okay, and how much you allow, leeway in those things, in terms of, taking a risk. Oh, if he plays it just right, I'm going to have this position. How bad is it? Okay. I played a FIDE master, Clif Kharroubi. He's a local player. I think at one time he was over 2,300. Yeah, okay. So he won the Marchand when we had, titled players. And just an amazing player, okay? And I was playing him in the Marchand, and I said, I got him. It's over. And I got miniaturized. I walked right into his cheesy trap. He was like, if I play it right, he's like negative 2.5. I wouldn't take this kind of risk, okay? But he was like, he's never going to find these moves, unless you're a Stockfish, you're not finding these moves. He said, I've beat players for years in this position, and I'm going to count on him not being able to find it. Well, he was right. I lost quickly. Okay, so if you have somebody up to that level, and they're saying, I'm willing to gamble, he's not going, oh, geez, I'm negative 0.5. No, I'm negative 2.5, but that's fine with me. Okay, so I'm going to run out of time, but I wanted to show like certain opening jokes and how they apply in our measures, like the likelihood, the pressure applied to the opponent, the suitability. So the first position I'm going to show is, this is my first coach. His name was Sherman Cunningham. Okay, and he's like just a stranger than fiction story, because at one time he was probably one of the top junior players in the country. He was amazing. He beat Dr. Marchand 6-0 in a match. Okay, he was on a full scholarship for wrestling. I think it was Ohio State he went to. And at one point he just kind of had a breakdown. Okay, school, wrestling, something. It was all too much. Okay. And he gained a lot of weight. He was probably, he's big, over 6 foot, over 300 pounds. But he still, the minimized Sherman was still good enough to clip games from Vivek Rao, who was a 2,500 GM at the Pan Ams. So, he's no joke. And I saw him sit right over on the table over there and play Igor Nikolaev, who drew Hikaru Nakamura, and he rolled him up in 23 moves. Okay, but let me put my little plug in for practical chess. I went, Igor, couldn't you just have traded queens here? He goes, I can't trade queens. I'm lost there. I'm 2 pawns down. And I said, you can't be Sherman in an endgame 2 pawns down. Like, that's ridiculous. No, instead he got checkmated. Okay, so, it's not always good to play objectively. Okay. Sometimes you've got to take advantage of the fact your opponent has certain pluses or minuses. Okay. So in this was his favorite position, the Scotch Gambit. Okay. And this is especially good for players at lower levels because the moves black plays here are usually. Oh, sorry. I meant to see Bishop C4. Scotch Gambit. Okay. Are usually Bishop C5 or Bishop B4. Are the two, the ones you see at the lower levels. Because lower rated players are worried they're going to get this, which is fine. Igor used to love this. This is transposing to a regular, like 2 knights variation. But in any case, no, most lower rated players won't and will play. It's a logical looking move. This is already actually a mistake because C3 is very strong here, and if this is kind of disturbing for, now here, don't make the mistake, you don't take, you play the check first, okay, so that, whatever black does, G6 is terrible, nobody should play g6. They should play this. That's the computer suggestion here. And it goes like this, and actually even queen e3 is better than queen takes c3. But if they play queen e3, they're a computer, so so don't figure they're going to play that. But this is fine too. This is a nice advantage for white. But that was one of Sherman's big tricks, and it literally it would come up quite a bit. The other thing was if check. This idea, I sat right next to him when a player who was like 1900 did this thing, and what's the move that ends the game? David?
Queen d5.
Yeah, queen d5.
I watched Brian Bay play this. Or I think he was playing the black pieces though.
Oh, jeez.
Oh yeah, we were against Brian.
Oh, so somebody knows this trick. Well, what's even more funny? What's actually even more funny is in this position after. Oh, like this. Here we go. So, in this position, if they play this move and you play here, which this was played in another game between two players, I'll protect their identity. Okay, that on this, the player with white played here. Okay, and the player with black resigned. Okay, it's not necessary to resign here because you can play knight h6, and after bishop takes, you can play castle. This is much better for white, but it's not a resign. Okay, you're still.
Well, finish the thought on that.
Oh no, go ahead though.
I was wondering why, when in the bishop c5 line, and then c3, d takes c3, why not play queen d5 there immediately?
I think
And
queen
then
e7.
bishop on
Queen
it.
e7 is not as much fun, I'm guessing.
Because queen e7 pulls f7 into the bishop.
Yeah, right. That's what I was. But no, it's a good thought. You're alive out there. It's not like some of these talks when somebody goes, no question. I'm looking at 30 people, nobody has anything to say. Gee. No, it's good to ask questions. Okay, so in this position though, here, queen d5, this is not so clear. I mean, it's still, this is better for white, granted, but white has to know the right move here. After castles, does anybody know what the right move is here? Yeah, I have a game up there. I shouldn't probably have. It makes it a little easier when the move's there. But many people have played this. In fact, let's see, we have the master database. If I put the regular player database, look, you have 28,000 people playing bishop c1. Right, so that's actually the most common move. So if bishop c1, it's quite interesting because knight b4 is already white's figuring, geez, this trap didn't even work out for me. Because the funniest would be something like this, but no, black's getting a lot of play here. It's very, very reasonable for black. Okay, so I want to show one more joke, and I'm going to show. I got little time, so I'm actually going to show the other Trumpowski joke to be consistent, because I'll finish the Trumpowski section that I had. Okay. So another idea is against the pseudo Trumpowski. Okay, when you play bishop g5, and this is actually my game with Benjamin. I actually played this move order, and he just played knight to f6. Okay, but a more logical move, I think, in a lot of ways, that's like a thinking chess player would play. I mean, what is this piece doing out here, right? How would you, as black, just logically, it's actually, I don't think it's quite as strict. David?
h6.
I mean, h6 is a move, but if you're going to be logical, you're going to say the dark squares on the queen side aren't going to be defended because the bishop's misplaced out here. Okay, so yeah, c5.
What's the problem with the H6 bishop H4 then C5?
No, David, it's not a problem. Okay, it's just, I mean, H6 is a committal move. I mean, are you always happy with H6? Yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily bad or good. I mean, it's a tempo. You are getting to move your pawn.
But I can't hang out that right mate.
No, don't play David. When he's calculating 25 moves ahead, he's already preventing the back rank mate. Don't play those guys. Just don't do it. It's not worth it. Okay? Gee. So, C5, okay, is quite a common move here. Okay? But, my English friends who among them Julian Hodgson, pioneered this line, had a very interesting response here. And you can see it's very common. 26,000 people played Queen A5. Okay? But now, Knight C3, and we're attacking the D5 pawn. E6, the most common move. And now there's E4, attacking that. And if black takes, bishop takes C5, he's just a little worse. But if he thinks he's better, he gets destroyed with the incredible B4. Obviously the pawn's immune, or there's a little mate situation, and if
Back rank.
what's that?
It's a back rank mate too.
Oh, that's what.
Yeah, that's what I was.
It wasn't prevented by H6.
Yeah. That's a very good point. Okay. So Knight B5 here is quite good, and I reached this position before. They'll go nameless. Okay, so
I did not have the black pieces.
I got the score sheet if you really want to. Yeah, if you hadn't said it, nobody would have known.
It was like over 1,200.
Yeah, no. This was the argument that you were saying only when you were
You beat
yes.
us 1,200.
This is more like 1700, 1800 here.
Okay, so now we're by 350. Okay, that's fine.
In any case, so here king takes is forced, and this is. I don't think you really have to be that strong a chess player to realize this is just lost. Yeah.
Like in this one?
No, it's not. So hey, I think I've covered basically all the things that I wanted to, that I had time for, without grossly over.
I was just saying, can you have the same kind of theme and play C6, and then play Queen D6 to attack the dark squares?
Okay, so in many cases, against a premature development of the bishop on G5, that would be on your list of things to point at, the weaknesses left. I was doing this because it was very common. You could see in the practice, a lot of people like to put their C pawn and attack the D pawn. So, and that created a venue for the queen to attack dark squares. So, in any case, that's why I was demonstrating that. But that would be a little more, sedate and probably safer way to play. In general, white can get into trouble with this premature development of the bishop. It's very, edgy. But like I said, three-time champion Joe Benjamin, was laughing because he goes, I play this as white. And I just went, no, I was hoping to surprise you. I felt about as silly as Ron Lorman, the owner who's passed. We were at a tournament out in Chicago, and this girl comes into the room and she's like, oh yeah, I'm going to surprise my opponents this round. I'm going to come out, I'm going to play the London system. And Ron and I, we almost fell on the floor. Everyone plays the London system now. You're not going to surprise anybody.
So I have a question. So let's say I'm a player, I'm one of these players, I've got, my repertoire is one of these hugely branching monstrosities. And I want to now say, okay, I got to find a new thing here that's more forcing, less branching. How do I go about coming up with that?
Okay, so let me
looking for some
right.
new idea.
No. That's great. Okay, so I was talking with some of the gentlemen here earlier, because of the fact there's some nice resources that are free on Lee Chess. Okay, so if we go back, let's go back here. Okay, so this is a good example. there was the owner of the chess center that I just mentioned, Ron Lorman, okay, and his big, most favorite opening joke was this, okay? Now, you can see in the Lee Chess database, after F4, what's the most common move here?
E takes.
Okay, how many thinks E takes is a move? No, it's illegal. Okay, this is bad. You're bad after EF. Okay. Yeah. you put it on F6 so it could find the G8 square. Yeah. No, this isn't good. This isn't chess. Knight F6, Knight G8. No, I'm sorry, not allowed. So the point is, look at how effective that is. I mean, here we are. What move is this? And they're already basically gone. I mean, if you just keep, bringing your pieces out and attacking them, don't hang anything, you kind of win these games. They take care of themselves. You got more space, more development. Come on, how much do you need? This is a crush. So the thing is, if you look at some of the other outcomes, okay, that just shifted unpleasantly. Sorry. There we go. Okay, so now you might go, oh, okay, so that's one move. That was only 1 million players that played that. Okay, so what are some of the other things they could do? Passive. You're better. You've got a lever towards the center, and their bishop is blocked in. You don't need to rush to exchange. They can't like try to keep this. If they try to take this pawn, for instance, you certainly get it back. You've got this D4 hitting the pawn. They can't play G. They just can't maintain the F pawn. So you're just going to have a big center, more active pieces. I mean, what in the world could...
But just to play devil's advocate, though, that's a different game than the Vienna Gambit line, where,
Well, wait a minute. Do you care what the name is, or the
Well,
thing?
you talked
Or
about
do you care?
steering into
No.
like the type of game that you as a player prefer. And
Right, but if you're either going to go here or be lost. I don't care which way they choose. You can be positionally lost, much worse, or you can go where I want you to. You see what I'm saying? It's like, oh, do you want the gun or the sword? It's not good either way. It's going to work for you, not. So, and there's even even worse way for them to play. That's not that uncommon, okay? And you see 400,000 down here with the knight c6. Does anybody know what they call the Halloween Gambit? This is the Halloween Gambit without giving up a piece, because you're just destroying them. Okay, but normally you'd have to give up a piece to do this, because here I'll just show the Halloween Gambit. This is plus a zillion. I mean, it's just a loss. But in the Halloween Gambit, it's not quite sound, but the position starts like this. And this is wrong for white to do this, but it has a lot of practical value. In fact, there was a player who used to, his name was Matthew. Ken, come on. O'Haron, yeah. Matthew O'Haron. He was like 1700, and he loved this opening. And there was a very, very high-strung young player named Pranav, and Pranav suffered on the black side of this position. So, much to the amusement of many players. So, in any case, you can obviously see, giving a piece, it's not losing. I mean, it's objectively, but it's not so obvious that Lev didn't ask me before the simul, hey, Cliff, can you show me the refutation to that? In case somebody does that. Go ahead.
How far would you take the logic of not carrying out the analysis and only trying to find practical play? Like, in the example of the Alec set, would you be proponent of black's play?
Okay, so what Dave is talking about, okay, there was a national master who has been ill recently. He's probably been ill for a long time. No. I can do that because I know. So, in any case, Okay, so we're going d4s. 19. Okay, and this is some very exciting chess. And the name of this whole thing is, obviously you can see it up there on there, it's called the Botvinnik variation. And this is some very exciting chess we get involved with when this happens. Okay. And the variation that's being discussed, okay, is here, here. Now, normally, black just takes this. But some brave souls who are following some old analysis and want to provide practical problems for their opponents will find this move, okay? Which, if you look there under the ... it's what he said, the Ella sort set variation or whatever, yeah. So, this variation, it's very tricky for white to deal with, okay? And the move here is not, you can see, 4,000 people played knight f3. That's not actually the problem with the position. The only way really to play this to, get some crushing position for white is to go all in and play knight takes f7 here. Okay, this is some excitement. Okay, and after, it's not going to do it for you. Gotta get this thing out of the way. Ah, there we go. Got it. Okay, so, and take this, and at this point you can see there's going to be some explaining to do when something like this happens. We're threatening like queen e4. I mean, is this knight any good here? I mean, there's a lot of technical details. Black is going to play c5 very shortly. I mean, this whole thing gets very, very complex. And if you're a dynamic tactical player known to play things like e4 and answer with f5, and you can make that work, this is child's play. Okay? But objectively, this is a losing position for black. Okay? But, who are you playing against? If you're playing against anybody basically under 1800 who's not prepared, advantage you. Okay? Because it's very hard to find all the defensive resources here. Your king is very exposed. You're under a lot of pressure. Okay? So, the question is, David, is in, like all things, it depends. Okay?
Like, this is negative, like,
Yeah, no, we're not talking about objectivity. See, usually I wouldn't take a position that is with precise play. So, this is like -4 or 5 for black. Black is really getting wrecked here, but the level of precision required is almost too high. It's like there was a game between Ryan Bay and a player, I actually don't know his name. It was in the Roy Lopez. Oh no, I'm sorry, it wasn't Roy. It's the Ponziani. And the player played a line that's almost like this. That's just terrible for white. But because of the fact that he knew it better, and I mean, if there's a move, if you miss a move, you lose. That can be bad. Okay, I think it went like this, this, this. Queen d5 here. This is, I don't know, this is like super complex. I'm sorry, I'm not sure I'm remembering the whole thing. Here, BC, queen takes c6. Yeah, and this is the point. Now you can see 135 people at this 36. White wins after king e7. It's a winning attack for white, and that's what Ryan played. The less obvious king d8 is the winning move, and you've got walk right into this. I mean, but if you don't know every move out to this is, I forget which move it is. Oh, it's only move 9. I don't know. I had seen it. I knew he was playing it wrong. But here's the thing. I knew the right move, but even I would have probably lost it because oh yeah, if you played this, sorry, if you played this, and then you have to play King E7, okay, and after Queen C7, okay, I think King F6 is actually bad here if I remember. Let me, this is crazy. Yeah, you've got to play King E8 here, and you're winning. You see the evaluation, right? But who's playing King E8? Everyone's going to run to make room for the bishop, and now they're worse. Queen F4 and white's better. so I mean, come on. This is, the guy is literally playing a line that's losing. But you have to know every move. You can't miss a move or you lose. So, I mean, unless you're playing somebody master level or beyond, it's not the greatest risk you're making playing a line like this. In any case. Any more questions?
Yeah, I have a quick one for you. Yeah, sometimes I'll hear it said by perhaps Magnus Carlsen, openings, whatever the opening is, we'll be able to play chess after that, and I'll be able to outplay my opponent.
That's what he's made a career out of that. What other players may go, oh, I can't play into this is too drawish. How can you outplay? He's playing against super GMs. How can you outplay them in such an even dry position? And then he does it. Okay, so that's a little scary. No, he's a handful, obviously.
Okay. So from the outset, if a chess player wants to know their style, if they're really not really tactical enforcing like Laszlo, but they want to say that, oh, I want to make sure they don't lose, but I want to find my style. How do we discover, what the steps are to discover our style that is meant for them?
Okay, so let's use you as an example. I mean, here you have somebody who's very talented endgame player. You like your strategically very straightforward. Your French, it suits you very well. You're very happy with it. It sounds like you found all the right thing. Like, what happened when you tried to play Sicilians?
It can be tough.
Yeah, a disaster. I mean, here's a guy in the French that, I mean, there's masters going, geez, I don't want to have to play against, these French. It's too tough. It's going to be an issue. But, you take him out of his comfort zone and some wild, tactical Najdorf and all, that's not what he wants. He'd probably like to trade some pieces. Get a nice ending that he's happy with. I mean, I remember I was sitting, I think I was next to you, you were playing like Lev, and Lev was struggling. Your Queen's Indian was just, too solid. He couldn't crack. Yeah, I guess it's a draw. He was not happy camp.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think your results will tip you off. I mean, what I did earlier, okay, which I didn't do, is Lee Chess has a very nice feature, okay? So, if you take, for instance, I've got me as black here, that's perfect. So, against E4, I was pointing out that if you look at my results, okay, you have me playing the Sicilian. I'm doing well. The E5, I'm doing well. They're very sound, approved ways to play. But I actually have a better result after I play D6. And there's reasons for that. It's because I like the dynamic structures that result from giving my opponent more space in the center and allowing him to extend and then counter-punching. Okay? That when you take some of the nuances out of the game and you just come at each other in Sicilians and open, positions. I mean, it's not terrible. Actually, I do pretty well with black, but it's not the same. I feel like I've got superpowers when I give them a little more space and get to maneuver and things. Okay, because that's kind of my area of fun. So, but I think your results will show. That's the short answer.
Some more reasons to look at your games.
Yeah.
That's how they-
Always. See, that's the biggest thing, the best way. Every solid chess coach will tell you this. Looking over your games and seeing where you went wrong. But here's the thing. Not everyone takes the message. They go, oh, they're looking at Stockfish and they go, oh, geez, I made this tactical mistake and I blundered. What they overlook sometimes is they already had to play 6 or 7 perfect moves just to hold up because they played themselves into a corner that was so tough. Their pieces were on bad squares, that they had a poor pawn structure, their king was exposed. They may have missed all the causes to that tactical blow-up, and they just isolate that. Oh, I made a mistake. No, it's not you made a mistake. Your whole game stunk. Okay, let's be honest. Okay, so that's what I would say.
How long should you keep with an opening before to the grade? Now, like let's say I played 20 different openings in the last year.
Okay, I'm you. Okay. No. I used to change my openings as much as I change my shirt. I mean, it's not good. Okay. If you want to be a world champion or something, okay, changing your openings and things like that, developing flexibility and trying to know everything, maybe you can do it. I don't know. It's very hard. But no, even having like 2 things like D4 and E4 is in most cases it's just a bridge too far. Most people don't have the time and the devotion to put the study in necessary to do it effectively. What you're going to do is you're going to get halfway there in all these openings, and none of them you're going to master. So you want to actually create a home field advantage where you understand the themes involved, you understand the nuances of the position, and it's your opponent that's sitting there grinding away, trying to find the right idea, and you're putting pressure on him on the board, on the clock, and he's sweating. Even if he finds all those perfect moves, he's expended so much energy and time, you still have an advantage. Okay, but if you keep preparing everything, you never get to that point. That's it.
What about the idea of psychology with regard to move order, and particularly in the opening?
Okay, no, that's an excellent point. I actually meant to cover that. Okay, but like everything, I have limited time here. Okay, this, for instance, is to me a good illustration of something like that. You want to sometimes give your opponent the chance to make a mistake. So let's say, for instance, you're white, and your goal is to play the Rook B1 Grunfeld line against your opponent that plays the Grunfeld. By playing a move like Knight F3 first, you give him a chance to make a mistake right away. If we look at the Lee chess people, 300,000 play this D5 move. Is that acceptable? They're Grunfeld players. David?
No, because there's no knight on C3.
Thank you. Okay. So the point is, if this happens, we have a knight that has no exchange here and is going to be forced to this ugly square, or it becomes an Owen Shriver knight. Now, this is a term that I developed because Owen Shriver lost 4 games in a row, and he said, I don't know why, I keep losing with my knights on G3, B6, G6, and wait a minute, I missed one of them. The one that I missed, those little squares on what used to be Queen's Knight and King's Knight 3, back in the old days. Okay, knights on that square tend to be very poorly placed. They're exposed to a rook pawn attack always. They have squares like D7 that are needed by many other pieces, so they trip over. It creates a lot of disharmony. Okay. So you want to avoid that, and it almost forces black to take that. So doing things like that, giving your opponent more chances to make those mistakes, puts pressure on him from early on in the game. In fact, I know a player who had grandmaster coaching for 6 or 7 years, went to a tournament out of town, and fell victim to that exact. He you had to play as Grunfeld, and you know, he just overlooked. There was no knight on C3, it was only on F3, and got a terrible game. So it can happen at a pretty high level. Okay, let's call it a day. It was a lot of fun. You guys were a great audience. Thanks for all the questions.